Hi, welcome back to another TerranScapes video. This video is a product review / introduction, and it's part of my ongoing quest to try to find a reusable mold making material. If you have been following me for a while, you know in the Wayback Machine I did some videos on a product called Composimold, and I never really was able to get Composimold to work well for me. If you watch the Composimold videos, it looks like it has great potential, but it just, I don't know, I wasn't able to get really good bubble-free molds from it. So, I recently, relatively recently, was contacted by one of my YouTube viewers, thank you, and that person put me onto a different compound called Vinamold. Vinamold is a white, well, wait a minute, I don't want to lose any of the bits because they're reusable. It's a white polyvinyl, I think, hence its name, Vinamold, compound that is fairly rubbery and is similar to Composimold, is heated until it's a liquid state. Then you pour it, let it cool, and then you can demold that, pull that off the master, and cast into it. I've been casting plaster into it with good results. And it's supposed to be acceptable for resins as well, although I would think you'd have to do relatively small parts, as resins heat up when they cure, and that will obviously become a problem for a mold making compound that melts when it gets hot. So what I thought I'd do is bring you over here, show you the Vinamold in a little bit closer look, and talk to you a little bit about some of my trials and tribulations and learnings with it. So, BitCat, this is already my second take because of him. Basically, I got in an order for a large number of Hirst Arts casts, over 50 casts from a single Hirst Arts mold. Now, it roughly takes about 15 minutes a cast, ballpark my time with degassing, so that's obviously going to take a huge amount of time. So I decided to rack up 5 copies of the mold and then cast them into a set of these larger molds, and then I could cast each one of these 10 times, basically the set, and do it in about a fifth of the time, or that was the plan. Now, difficulties with my first attempt with Vinamold means I actually didn't save very much time, but I've learned enough from the material now that I feel very confident going forward I can get that time saving when I want it and or need it. The mold material itself is quite soft. I would put this on I forget what the proper term is, I think it's a durameter scale of roughly a 20, maybe a 25. I don't even think it's a 30. It could be a 30. So that's a relatively soft mold making compound. One of the nice things about it, though, is it's pretty easy to demold as a result, small parts, and it's relatively tear resistant. I would not say it has very good tear resistant properties, but it is, whoop, there you go. See, you can tear it. Now, of course, this is being pretty aggressive on it, but it is, not as strong by any measure as a good silicone rubber. Let me pick up the bits I'm dropping here because they're all reusable. So, taking a look at this, then, I should just try to walk you through my learning curve with it. Maybe it will help those of you out there who are interested in it. When you heat it, you pour it basically almost like a heavy cream consistency. And when you pour it, you're going to find that bubbles are going to come to the surface. It's pretty effective at degassing itself, provided you have it hot enough. The first time I poured it, I got a decent mold. Now, this is actually a relatively large mold, so your results are going to vary probably depending on the type of object you're trying to mold, because deeper molds are going to hold heat longer, larger pores are going to cool off in sections, more quickly. And what I found is as I would start pouring it, by the time I got back to this spot, again, it would start to cool, and I'd have material folding onto the cooled parts, and then I would entrap bubbles against the masters. So you really need to almost just pour it on really aggressively, very quickly out of your pan. When you do that, you should, at least this is my experience, you should see bubbles come to the top. If you don't get a very bubbly surface, you probably have not heated it high enough. Now, if you continue heating it, however, too much, you will burn it. And this is, you can see the color shift here. See how this one is more yellow? This is the Vinamold starting to burn. I pushed it too hot here because I had done 3 pours and 2 of them had a lot of bubbles, but I knew I could get a good one out of it, so I went back, heated it more, overheated it, started to change its consistency. It's still usable. I'm still able to what's the word I'm looking for? Melt it. But it's obviously the properties are changing, and I assume that this will continue to degrade if I continue to abuse it temperature-wise. One of the things that you'll notice here, this one was a mold that had some of the hot material added into it, so this was burned. I had some extra. I used it with some non-burned material, and I got a color change sort of in between these two. This one, you can see, has quite a bit more bubbling on the surface. This one actually went kind of nuclear when it was done curing. This is obviously far too aggressive. It actually had welled up and it had to be trimmed so it could lay flat. This was pushing it far, far too much. So you don't really want to overheat it when you're using it. And should you forget you have a small amount in the microwave and walk away from it, very bad idea. This is what you get instead. This is the worst smelling, most Nurgle-esque kind of material you'll ever deal with. This actually just destroyed my kitchen odor-wise for hours, and I had to throw this outside and turn on all the fans. This was leaving it in for 5 minutes on a, I can't remember what heat setting, but I walked away from it, and that was a big mistake. I also don't recommend heating it in the microwave, as microwaves are going to heat it very unevenly, and even though I was regularly stirring it, I found it was very difficult to control the heating. So I ended up heating it in a pan, and I recommend not heating it in a pan that you plan to use for food, as the odor that this gives off is quite strong. But you can see, looking at quite strong, I should say, it has an odor. It's like vanilla, like some kind of synthetic chemical vanilla, which after a while started to make me nauseous. Not because I think the compound itself was making me sick, but I was so tired of smelling it. It was just, I'd smell even a tiny whiff of it, and I was like, ugh. So for the faint of nose, it may not be your cup of tea. But I wanted to try to give a close-up of the mold here before we leave the sort of close cam. Boy, that is not focusing. Why is that not focusing? Let's see if I can trick it here. Well, we'll see. Maybe it's just because it's a little dim in my viewfinder here. But these are super, super crisp casts. It really does a nice job of picking up detail. The person who recommended this to me showed me a video of him casting destroyed War Machine markers, and they just look fantastic, Cat. So really, it's the kind of material that you can get excellent results from with a reasonable amount of effort, but you've got to really be careful heating it and heating it evenly. The recommendation for preparing it for heating, I'll get out a little scrap here. This is peeled out of the pan after I was done. You know, is to cut it up into chunks. It cuts fairly easily with a pair of scissors. And, you know, cut it up into little grains and granules, and then sprinkle those into the pan. Make sure you have the bottom fully covered. Start it on a low heat until you start to liquefy it, and then basically you're on your way. So this is Vinamold. I'm giving it a thumbs up at this point in terms of its detail and usability. You know, in terms of its what's the word I'm looking for? It's user-friendly. How's that? Cat. He decided that rubbing the lights was too much work, and he decided he needed a nap. So, a couple last comments on Vinamold. First, I was not able to find a vendor in the United States for it, so I had to order it from the UK. Cost-wise, it's sold typically by the kilogram, and I purchased 2 kilograms for something like $18-ish maybe, and then had to spend over $30 to get it shipped here. So, you know, it's really up to you and your budget. Third, it actually comes in 3 varieties, 3 colors, which indicate its hardness and suitability for certain kinds of applications. There is a hardness level excuse me, that is softer than this, and one that is higher than this. I think it's like yellow, white, and red, or something like that, although you may see other colors depending on the vendor you look at. But it does come in those 3 different hardness levels. I picked one in the medium range because I felt like that would probably be the most versatile and a safe bet for trying it out first time around. I think that it's probably reusable hundreds of times if you don't burn it, as far as I can tell. You know, time will tell as I go back and use it again. But this is the kind of material that's going to be perfect for, say, when I did the castle project a little while back and I wanted to reproduce all those spines. You know, right now I'm sitting on a bunch of silicone rubber molds for those that I'll probably never use again, because in the next project where I want something similar to that, I'll probably want to do it with more detail. So, you know, this gives you that kind of opportunity to do one-off project casting with some special pieces that you're not necessarily interested in retaining the mold for future use. So hopefully you found this kind of interesting. That's Vinamold. If you're interested in finding some, I recommend you just Google it online, you know, you're going to find that most of the distributors, at least all the ones I found, are in the UK. So be prepared for that extra shipping if you're United States or perhaps an Australian viewer or something similar. I can't speak to other countries. I can only speak to the US. So. If you have any questions or comments on this, however, feel free to leave them down below, and be happy to try to share my experience with the Vinamold as much as I can. It's kind of new to me, but I'm learning all the time. And you know, once again, thank you for joining me. Keep your eye on the channel. I'll be back probably in a week or so with some updates on some of the other projects that are going on in the shop. Until then. This rubber, right around maybe a 30. And, alright, I have to move the lights. Cat is getting crazy on me here. He's, alright. Jesus. Do I have to reshoot this? I have to reshoot this. I have to reshoot this. 3, 2, 1.